SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Coleman Taylor Transmission, servicing Central Mississippi for over 60 years. Their ASE certified technicians offer dependable transmission services, a warranty, and wrecker services. Call Coleman Taylor today for all your transmission needs.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive.
Spectacular day on the way today in the state of Mississippi. Starkville, you're checking in at 78 degrees. Mostly sunny this afternoon. Going to be great for the matchup with Mississippi State and Jackson State. Mississippi Gulf Coast, Biloxi, you're going to be mostly sunny and 73. Greenwood, 78 degrees, partly cloudy in the Delta. Pearl tonight, pretty nice for Ole Miss and Southern Miss on the Diamond. High of 79, partly cloudy. Going to be upper 50s tonight. Good morning. This is Mornings with Richard Cross. SuperTalk Mississippi. We have got a metric ton to talk about this morning. So much going on in the legislature, so much going on at the national level, so much happening right here in our home state of Mississippi. The great state of Mississippi, we're glad to be with you. Glad to be joined by Lance Tolbert, as always. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning. Yeah, it'll be a fun day today. Had a little late edition, too. That I love it when we get another guest that's going to have amazing stuff to cover with us today.
A guest-heavy Tuesday. Probably heavier than we intended for it to be, but 4 of them, and you're going to enjoy this, I think. I certainly think. Marie Sanderson, always like the insight that Marie brings to the table. She'll join us to start the 7 o'clock hour. She was the policy director at the RGA, GOP strategist, really, really bright, youngish mind in the political. She's young, but like in the way that I'm young and you're young. Like calling us anything other than young would be disingenuous, right? None of us are ready for middle age.
No, I mean I'm physically in the numbers. I'm there, but I refuse to admit it.
No, absolutely not. Haley Fisackerly is going to join us this morning, president and CEO of Entergy Mississippi. What is Entergy doing in the wake of the storms from the weekend? What's the cleanup process? How are they getting things back on board as quickly as they can? Trey Lamar will join us. Boy, there were some fireworks, maybe not the word, but activity. There was a lot of scurrying around yesterday afternoon when via X, Twitter, the Senate rolled out a new proposal for the tax plan. The first time they've rolled out a proposal that on paper shows a willingness to take the state income tax to 0. Now, a bit of an undefined timeline on when and how to get there. Triggers in this proposal, and then shortly thereafter, a press release from the House side of things with some changes to House Bill 1 that we've been looking at since the very beginning of this session. Do you call them concessions? Do you just call them a willingness to work together? Does this get us to a place where we can envision cooperation? We'll ask those questions this morning. Looking forward to Trey Lamar joining us. And then Chapel Hart going to be on with us at the end of the 8 o'clock hour. I did ask yesterday, I was like, will they sing? But they're not all in the same place. We know they can sing. We know it's spectacular. New album coming out, or new song release coming out. Going to be at Jazz Fest in New Orleans. Man, stuff is happening in a really, really good way and really fast for Mississippi's own Chapel Hart. That's all coming up in the next 3 hours. How do we fit it all in? I don't know. But I do know that on this day in 1965, Soviet cosmonaut Alexei Leonov left his spacecraft Voskhod 2. Left it for 12 minutes and became the first person to conduct a spacewalk. Nobody could ever take that away from him.
No. You being the first to do a spacewalk? Come on, man. I mean, it's pretty cool.
Pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pretty good. That was me. That wasn't you. Sorry about
did
that.
I hit something? Uh-oh.
No. That was my fault. That happened in 1965, and you had the great space race going on.
Yeah, but Stanley Kubrick, he filmed all that, right, in a warehouse.
Well, I was going to ask you, do you believe? Do you think it happened? Do you think that?
I don't know. There's so much information out there, and who knows if any of it's valid or not. But it is entertaining. You
think that's going to be part of the JFK file release today?
I seriously doubt it. Yeah.
On this day in 1881, Barnum and Bailey Circus debuted at Madison Square Garden, merging the two major circus companies, and they still rocking and rolling today. Without Barnum and Bailey Circus, would we have animal crackers?
No way. And I listened to the clip. It was actually pretty interesting, talking about how quickly they have to, even back then in 1881, they were flipping over the transit of the animals, taking care of them, and then also still organizing a parade and 3 shows in a day. Think about breaking all that down and putting it back together each and every day, and the precision that it would take to take care of those types of animals as well. So it was fascinating. You also had on this day Michael Jordan after 17 months. Yeah, you were thinking like me, huh? Yeah. He rejoined the Bulls. The greatest was back in the game again. After the hiatus.
The starting lineups for your Chicago Bulls. Oh, so good.
What a dude.
So good. That was, I vividly remember growing up, there was on Saturday night, WGN out of Chicago would carry Bulls games. Mm-hmm. And they had a pregame show called Bullseye. And the Chicago Bulls were the first team that I knew of. Maybe there was somebody else out there that turned off the lights for the starting lineups. And they always carried the starting lineups on the broadcast because it was so cool for Chicago, and that was the hometown broadcast, and everybody wanted to see that. So they would come out of the pregame show, Bullseye, and the lights would go down, and you'd see the spotlights kind of chasing their way around Old Chicago Stadium and then later the United Center. And when those lights focused on that big bullhead right there at center court, and you heard Alan Parsons' Project Sirius playing over there, and whoo, it was good stuff. Jordan announced that he was ending his 17-month retirement from the NBA with a press release that was pretty simple. You remember what it said?
No.
2 words. I'm back.
I'm back. Yeah, that's right.
The next day, Jordan took to the court with the Bulls to face the Pacers, scored 19. Game had the highest television rating of any regular season NBA game since 1975. He could have worn his original number 23 jersey, instead opting for his baseball number 45, when he came back. The Bulls made a late season run to the playoffs in 95. Lost to the Magic in the Eastern Conference Finals. He got pushed a little bit. What was it? Was it Brian Anderson? Was that the right name? If you go back and you watch The Last Dance, you can see that story. He goes, man, number 45 doesn't have it like 23 used to. And that was about all Michael Jordan needed, as the Bulls, the following season, would begin their second three-peat, winning it all in 96, 97,
think of that team,
98.
The 95 and 96 team with Jordan, Pippen, Rodman, Kukoc, Luke Longley, Steve Kerr, Ron Harper, et al. You had John Sally in there too, Jed Buechler.
Yeah.
I mean, would you say that's probably one of the best teams assembled? I mean, you've covered sports.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, just the 95, 96. I know they didn't win but like 70-something games, but when you look at the lineups that they were throwing out there for those years, it's amazing. I mean, just the talent there. And then to have Scottie Pippen's kind of the guy that's just over here, and one of the best players of all time, Dennis Rodman, the heel. I mean, goodness, entertainment, baby.
I read a quote from Jordan a couple of days ago. He said, I mean, I don't really care about his dresses. I don't really care about his personality. I don't really care about his hair. Because that dude goes out and rebounds a basketball.
Yeah,
and that's what we need him to do.
He did, yeah.
That's what we need him to do. Really good stuff there. This day in history. Kind of a lame birthday day.
Yeah. It's not one of the best. It was a bunch of
nobody
musicians.
worth celebrating.
Not really, other than President Grover Cleveland, Edgar Cayce.
Yeah.
Those two are in there. Those two good
Queen
guys.
Latifah was in there.
Yeah,
Whatever.
And then Prime Minister, the great capitulator, Neville Chamberlain.
I mean, it's not that we don't want you to celebrate. We're just not really going to celebrate you. We got news headlines coming up this morning. We got the C Spire text line open for you, 601-879-4395. 601-879-4395. C Spire customer inspired. I have to know the name of Cross's walk-up song. The first one that you guys play first thing in the morning. Mannish Boy, Muddy Waters. We'll be back. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi.
Watch how strange can be. Little red roosters on the prowl.
From the Venable Glass.
Wake up! Rise and shine!
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross
Nice early morning surprise.
on Super Talk, Mississippi.
What's different about us? I don't really know. No matter how I try, I just can't make a cry.
Morning. Thanks for being with us. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. You want to join the conversation? We'd love to hear from you. 601-879-4395. Give your business the edge with gigabit fiber internet from C Spire. Find them online at cspire.com/business. C Spire, customer inspired. Well, it lasted, how long, Lance? Less than, about 3 months.
2 months plus, yeah.
2.5. Israel launched a wave of airstrikes across the Gaza Strip early this morning, saying it was hitting Hamas targets in its heaviest assault in the territory since a ceasefire took place back in January. Palestinians reporting dozens of deaths, according to hospitals that were receiving bodies. Why'd you do it, Israel? Benjamin Netanyahu said that he ordered the strikes because of a lack of progress in the ongoing talks to extend the ceasefire and release the hostages. Officials said the operation was open-ended and expected it to expand. Hamas warned that Israel's new airstrikes breached the ceasefire and put the fate of the hostages in jeopardy. Did it? Did it really put the fate of the hostages in jeopardy?
I don't know about
Because I kind of feel like you have already put the fate of the hostages in jeopardy with the way that you've treated them for the last year.
that. It's been since October.
18 months.
Yeah, I mean, they've been there for a bit. And October 2023.
Now, as to Hamas's statement that, hey, it's a violation of the ceasefire, you think? Yeah.
59 of 250 still being held since October 7th, 2023.
So we've been doing this for a minute, Hamas.
Yeah, and people that were just at a music concert, most of them, they had nothing to do with any military action against Hamas.
Israel's like, enough. You won't give us our people back? Fine, we'll just bomb you the hell out of there. And we're good at that. We got the bullets, we got the bombs, we got the planes, we got the missiles. Let's go.
Get the Houthis getting popped again.
And you got the Houthis mouthing off and getting punched in the mouth.
With Russia stepping in this instance, and come on, U.S., y'all need to talk it out. Really, that's kind of rich coming from Russia. Y'all know, I mean, I have tried to be as, in the middle because of the history of Ukraine, Russia, Eastern Europe, World War I. It's a mess, okay? I know that there's a mess. If you just do a little historical research on pre-World War I into World War II, I mean, it's a mess. So, but yeah, I mean, Russia lecturing the U.S. on whether or not we should be striking the Houthis and protecting our ships that are getting attacked by rebels.
Yeah, so that's the deal, right? The Houthi rebels are going after ships and then putting videos and saying, no U.S. ships will be allowed in the Red Sea and in that part of the world. And my first thought was, under which flag are you making this proclamation? Like, which country, are we recognizing Houthiville as a country? Because I don't think Houthiville's a country. I think you're a terrorist organization that is, once again, a proxy for Iran and other bad dudes, is funded by a bunch of bad dudes, and thinks you get to be modern-day pirates in the Red Sea. And congratulations, for a while you were. Because we had a cardboard puppet that was playing President of the United States. And when Trump came in, he's like, if you're supporting terrorism, if you're doing things to us, we're going to kick your butt. And he warned them a couple of times. And what'd they do with the warning, Lance?
Basically threw it back in our face, huh?
Yeah, a little floppy. And so Trump, it's like he opens his pocket and he opens his coat jacket and he reaches in his pocket. He's like, I'd like you to meet my little friend. Mm-hmm. And it happens to be a missile that's blowing up their boats out of the water. And you're right. For Russia to be like, whoa, let's talk about this. Screw you.
Yeah, come on.
Don't you have a missile to launch into Kyiv while we pretend like we're making peace there? Good news. Sarcasm a little thick this morning. Good news here, though. No sarcasm. Jackson State's Ashley Robinson has once again been named one of the National Association of Collegiate Directors of Athletics Athletic Director of the Year. NACDA is the organization. Named that for the 24-25 academic year because of strides that Jackson State continues to make on the field and off, graduating people at a higher rate. A lot of success, fundraising success, and winning, including a national championship in football this past year. The NACDA Athletic Director of the Year Award recognizes leaders who have demonstrated exceptional dedication, innovation, and impact within collegiate athletics. His recognition highlights his contributions to Jackson State and his influence in shaping the future of the university's athletics programs. Every time I have talked with Ashley Robinson, I have come away just as impressed as I can possibly be. And what a well-deserved award. Congratulations to Ashley Robinson at JSU, Athletics Director of the Year. Very, very good stuff. It's getting a little better, but it's taken a minute in Tupelo. Last week you had the explosion in the hole, right? The gas service line. Progress being made. You had a crew from Atmos Energy that was working to repair a gas leak in Lee County. An explosion occurred, leaving roughly 20,000 homes, schools, and businesses with disrupted service. Tupelo, Guntown, Verona, Saltillo, Brewer, Plantersville. You want a hot shower? You better go to a friend's house. Yesterday, let's see, I guess it was Sunday night when this story first came out. About 2,500 customers had been turned back on, meaning you still had 17,000 or so that were without gas. For some, that's significant, Lance. I mean, not only are you talking about hot water, you're talking about heat.
Yeah, heat as well, yeah. Cooking
talking about the ability to cook for some.
If you got that all-natural gas house or predominant, you're going to be dealing with, especially the hot water heater, though. Especially with the elderly and staying clean and, I mean, cold showers, that's rough this time of year.
No bueno. Although you do have the whole, cold plunge people. You a cold plunge guy? Have you tried that?
I mean, I always, like today, a hot water heater was out, something that they were doing work on it yesterday and didn't get it done.
Wait, at your house?
Yeah, just routine maintenance that turned into not that, obviously. Didn't have the part, so didn't have a hot shower this morning. But I'm always...
Did you go cold shower?
Yeah.
Or did you go no shower?
No, I just went no shower, head in the sink, and woke up. But yeah, I always put my head under the ice-cold water every day just to get awake. But yeah, I don't submerge my body in it. Yeah, I couldn't do that. But no, I always like the cold snap there early in the morning. That kind of wakes me up. But I need some hot water also. So yeah, that's pretty rough. 2,400 out of 20,000. They're making progress, but it is slow. And
by a lot of people's standards, the cold plunge thing is. Do any of you do that? C-Spire text line 601-879-4395. Do you go with the cold plunge as a means of it's really good for you? Like there are a lot of opens up blood vessels. Stimulates blood flow.
I tell you, when I do it in the morning with my, just my head and face, it makes a huge difference.
It gets you going a little
Goodness
bit.
gracious, yeah. It's cold, but it feels good.
House Bill 1 has been updated. Trey Lamar will join us in studio this morning at 8 o'clock. House and Senate leaders yesterday evening, late afternoon, unveiled new plans to eliminate the state income tax, to raise gasoline taxes, charting a path to, if nothing else, more negotiations over the most notable legislative debate of this 2025 session. Monday marks the first time that Senate leadership has proposed a plan that eliminates the income tax. That is a significant move from their previous position of wanting to only cut the tax, which accounts for about a third of the state budget. I mean, I think from the standpoint of we talk about this on the radio, we're glad this is unfolding the way it is. I mean, it's like a 100-act play.
Yeah. Multi-layer onion.
The question is, are we going to have a happy ending? I don't know. Sports headlines coming up next.
Reaching across the state and across the aisle. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
You have options. Options in the way that you start your day. And if you're hearing me say that, you've chosen this. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi. And for that, we, all of us, say thank you. Glad to have you along for the ride. I ask you the question, C-Spire text line, do you cold plunge? Have you got one of those tubs that you fill up with ice and you got a lid and you keep it that way and you use it every day? Do you do the full-on cold shower to get going? Yes, this stemmed from a conversation about the gas outage in Tupelo. Bubba says he starts with a hot shower and finishes with cold. That works for him. I've done that before. I don't like that all that much. Sheila said, I've had one cold shower It was horrible. Now I'm getting up an hour early for work to boil 2 huge pots of water so that I can take a warm bath. That's Sheila in Tupelo.
That's dedication.
Well, yeah, I shouldn't have a choice right now.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. You got to do what you got to do.
I'm assuming that means you have an electric stove to boil the 2 big pots of water. Hang in there, Tupelo folks. They're getting you back online as quick as they can. All right, we got baseball tonight. Ole Miss, Southern Miss, round 2 in Pearl. You remember, Lance, Ole Miss and Southern Miss played in Oxford, what was it, about 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Maybe a month ago.
It was back on February the 25th, a Tuesday game.
There you go. And it did not go particularly well for the Golden Eagles. We talked about that game the morning after. And that was about as poor as the Golden Eagles have played all season long. They walked the entire world.
Yeah.
And they hit a bunch of batters, and they got beat 15-8. So they would like to play a little bit better tonight. I actually got the numbers for you in front of me. Let's see here. I don't want you to think let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 pitchers, 11 earned runs, 11 walks, and 5 wild pitches, and 5 hit batters.
And then add a couple of errors to that, and that always helps.
Yeah. No bueno. 2 errors. So tonight you're going to hook up in Pearl. 6 o'clock first pitch. Sports Talk Mississippi will be there with you this afternoon from 3 until 6, getting you ready for the game. Coverage brought to you by C Spire. C Spire, customer inspired.
Man, you can go across the street, big Bass Pro Shop. They got some of those amazing, alligator boats over there. Oh, every time I walk by them, I'm like, man.
Wait, do I need an alligator boat?
You got to have one of those. Those things are amazing. I mean,
you're talking about the aluminum.
Yeah, the platform with all the lights on it and everything. And you can bow fish off of them and everything too. But I mean, it's for alligator hunting and other stuff. But man, those things are so beautiful. I have to say, it's a weakness of mine. I just gaze for about 10 minutes. Like, man,
is that like the thing that you're saving for?
Yeah, that would be nice. I would love to be pulling that thing down the road. It'd be almost like Squidbillies where you have a truck, except I'd have like a truck and a trailer with my side-by-side on it. I'm having a lot of work done. It's getting all jacked up. And
really?
Yeah, I've got an 07 Rhino that I've decided to totally rebuild and turn it into a mud monster. And a buddy of mine here in the building who is amazing with stuff, he's been taking it to the next level. So, yeah, what I need next is a nice alligator boat with all the trimmings and have a trailer behind my trailer.
Am I crazy when I say you could buy that alligator boat for about the same price as buying a brand new side-by-side?
You're right. I mean, they're outrageous, man. But they're something else to see if you've got the funds for them. That makes it a lot of fun.
So you're doing lifted, big tires.
Well, yeah, I've had a little this and that when I bought
radio?
It. I'm gonna put one in. Yeah, that's the other thing. I've got some great lights and all that, but it's older, and I love older stuff, analog, not a lot of digital, especially out in the swamp. Mm-hmm. And I decided to just put a little love and effort into this thing after I've kind of beat it up the last few years. And one of my buddies like, yeah, man, I can do that. I'm like, okay, let's do it. And I sent him a picture of what I wanted it to look like, and he said, yeah, I can handle that. So it's been fun to take something old and make it new again. I love doing that.
I love it. You can join the conversation. C Spire text line 601-879-4395. We talked yesterday about NCAA tournament a little bit. You've got Mississippi State headed to Raleigh, North Carolina, going to play Baylor in their first round game, and it's an early game on Friday. 11:15 tip-off for Central Time. And that's the first game of the day, I think, on Friday. So you will, if you're waiting for the start of the NCAA tournament, you get up Friday, you do your breakfast, you go to work, whatever it is you got to do, get your coffee in you, get a little while, and when you start feeling that first little rumbling in your stomach, like, what am I going to do for lunch? Oh, I'm going to go somewhere where I can watch the game.
Yeah, I think you're right. It is the early game. There's not one before that at all.
Nope.
CBS.
So they'll come on television, on CBS and True TV and TBS and TNT and all the places they carry these games and do a little bit of preview stuff. They're like, and then now let's send you to Raleigh, North Carolina. And then boom, you got Mississippi State. And then about 3 o'clock Central Time, the beginning of the afternoon session, you will have Ole Miss from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We just don't know who Ole Miss's opponent is going to be yet, but late tonight we will. You have North Carolina playing San Diego State. The winner of that game will be an 11 seed and will be Ole Miss's opponent. So you got that.
You got a preference on that one?
Oh, yeah. Give me North Carolina.
That's what I was thinking. They're kind of...
Give me the Tar Heels.
San Diego State had a run last year that kind of scares you a little bit.
Oh, it has absolutely nothing to do with the makeup of the team. I just give me that big name, give me that tradition. Oh, look, San Diego State. I mean, they played for a national championship a few years ago.
Yeah. It was a few years ago. Yeah, I get them.
They ain't North Carolina though.
No, it's a pretty big brand there, especially basketball. Come on.
Yes, that's absolutely. And North Carolina hadn't been very good this year either. Mm-hmm. Now, they won 8 of 10 down the stretch, so they're playing a little bit better, but they have not played a lot of good teams in that stretch in which they've won 8 or 10. But look, man, you're in the NCAA tournament. You better show up. You better play well. It better not matter who the opponent is. And if you do, you got a chance. And the most likely second-round opponent for Ole Miss would be Iowa State, 3 seed. Whose big man, one of their best players, is out, not going to be available for the tournament. But forget about that. You got to worry about North Carolina first. And then, when that's over, be able to flip a few channels over and you watch Ole Miss in the women's tournament. They play, 5-ish on Friday. They will be down in Waco. Boy, they got... I mean, the more I've looked at it, the more frustrating it's got to be for Coach Yo and the Ole Miss women's basketball team. They 100% should have been hosting one of the 16 regionals. They should have been one of the sites. They are not, and so they get to go with the old chip on the shoulder attitude as they head to Baylor. And then Mississippi State's women's team also in the tournament. First time ever that men's and women's for both Ole Miss and Mississippi State, all 4 in the big dance. Mississippi State headed out west to Los Angeles. They will play Cal. And if they win that game, they get a 1 seed in the second round.
Same as the men's, too. That's
right.
You got to beat whoever's in front of you. But if anybody had a right to be a little bit disgruntled, both the men and women getting the same kind of 8-9 draw there.
Yeah. The governor of West Virginia is speaking out. West Virginia had a significantly better resume on the season than the University of North Carolina. And yet, West Virginia, they're at home singing country roads while North Carolina is trying to get to Dayton, Ohio to play a game tonight. And that did not sit well with the governor of the mountain state. West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrisey lashing out at the men's NCAA tournament selection committee. He said, quote, West Virginia deserved to be in the NCAA tournament. He was standing at a lectern with a sign reading National Corrupt Athletic Association, NCAA. Went on to say this was a miscarriage of justice and robbery at the highest levels.
You can't find him, for speaking out. Right.
Meanwhile, the chair of the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee, Bubba Cunningham, athletics director, University of North Carolina. Now, he's not able to be in the room when they're talking about his team, but he's right outside the door. Couldn't hurt. Lottery update. Are you a winner? We'll tell you when we come back.
From the veteran.
Mornings with Richard Cross. What's up?
Let's get the show going.
Super Talk, Mississippi.
Hammy in Hattiesburg says on the C Spire text line, took a lot of great cold showers in Afghanistan. It's really not that bad. When that's your only option, Hammy, I'm sure it's not bad. There are a lot of people that pay money for this, Lance. So when your gas line is just taken away, you have no choice. It's not quite the same as when you go on a vacation to do hydrotherapy at a spa, and you go hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, and you walk out feeling pure and clean and revived and energized. And when they take when your gas is just taken away unexpectedly, that becomes not a spa experience.
That's the opposite of a spa. You do not feel pampered.
You remember Carl Lee?
Yeah, the name rings a bell.
Yeah, A Time to Kill.
Oh yeah, Carl
John
Lee.
Grisham book,
yeah.
The original John Grisham book. They were on the square in Clinton when they were filming Free Carl Lee, Free Carl Lee. Carl Lee was faced with a decision in his life. See, his daughter was brutally beaten and other unspeakable things were done to her in the story. And Carl Lee made a calculated decision. He knew that there was a chance that he was going to be killed for his actions. He knew there was a chance that he was going to spend the rest of his life in prison for his actions. And yet, he made a decision knowing that there was a potential for consequence. Calculated decision. But when there is no potential for consequence, people don't necessarily calculate their decisions. Like when you disrupt an entire university and students' ability to go to class, and you don't really care what you're saying, you don't think your words have any consequences, you don't think your actions have any consequences, you can operate with no fear. The federal government and Columbia University student, former Columbia University student Mahmoud Khalil are sparring a bit in court over him being moved to Louisiana. I laughed out loud when I read this. This is from the AP story. Mahmoud Khalil was moved to Louisiana to a deportation center, an immigration facility in Louisiana. Why? Well, the government says he could not be detained at an immigration facility near where he was originally arrested, in part because of a bed bug infestation. So they sent him to Louisiana instead. So Mahmoud Khalil in court says there was no such discussion of bed bugs, and he feared that he was being immediately deported. Oh, fear? Fear for your actions has now entered the equation for Mr. Khalil? There's no fear of any punishment for his actions when he was negotiating on behalf of the pro-Palestinian protesters who disrupted the way of life of regular students at Columbia University, but now there is fear that he might be deported. Might change the calculus on some of those decisions that he made a few months ago.
Yeah.
All right, let's get you a lottery update. It's brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery. Find them online at mslottery.com. Lotto America, no jackpot winner yesterday. The jackpot estimated now at $26,770,000. That cash value, $12.5 million. Monday night's numbers, 11, 12, 20, 29, 33. Starball 8. All-Star bonus multiplier was 5. No jackpot winner on the Powerball, but one player in Mississippi matched 4 of the 5 white balls and the Powerball, winning $100,000. They got that $1 power play multiplier, doubling their prize to $100,000. The ticket purchased at Lakeside Food Mart in Brandon Next Powerball drawing coming up on Wednesday. Estimated jackpot, $416 million. Estimated cash value, $194 million and change. Monday night's numbers were 11, 18, 23, 38, 60. The Powerball was 9. Power play multiplier was 2.
Well, double play numbers from Monday, March 17th, 4, 19, 21, 38, 64, Powerball at 26. Mega Millions, no jackpot winner yet. Estimated jackpot for tonight, $301 million. Estimated cash, $139.5 million. The numbers from Friday, 3, 17, 39, 42, and 70 with a mega ball of 1 and a mega player multiplier of 3.
Continuing with some of the lotto numbers, Mississippi Match 5, no jackpot winner. 690,000 was the estimated jackpot for tonight. Last night's numbers, 13, 15, 22, 25, and 35. Don't forget, the clock is ticking on the 8 scratch-off games from the Mississippi Lottery. So is your shot at second chance prizes totaling over $2 million. Don't miss out on the prizes. Like $1 million on Jackson, $500,000 on Triple Diamond Payout, $400,000 on Multiplier Mania. Get your tickets today. Visit mslottery.com for the full list of games that are ending, the prizes, and a whole lot more. All of that courtesy of the Mississippi Lottery. Find them online at mslottery.com. Owen Starkville says, I, too, have had to take cold showers on foreign fields like Hammy in Hattiesburg texted. They suck, no matter where you are. We're back with you. 7 o'clock hour coming up next.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Grab another cup of coffee and start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Not think the U.S. represents the values of the Statue of Liberty anymore. They want the Statue of Liberty back. So is President Trump going to send the Statue of Liberty back to France?
Absolutely not. And my advice to that unnamed low-level French politician would be to remind them that it's only because of the United States of America that the French are not speaking German right now. So they should be very grateful to our great country.
That was Caroline Leavitt, the spokesperson for the president and the White House yesterday. Maybe not the single most newsworthy thing that came out of Washington, D.C. yesterday, but she is a boss and has been phenomenal standing behind that podium. Welcome again to Mornings with Richard Cross, 7 o'clock hour. Glad to have you along for the ride. You want to join the conversation? The C Spire text line is open to you, 601-879-4395. This hour of Mornings with Richard Cross brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you're not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They provide a full range of employer services plus a custom plan that fits you. Give them a call today, 601-206-7966, or go to MWGEmployerServices.com. Our first guest this morning is Marie Sanderson, former policy director with the Republican Governors Association, the RGA. She is a GOP strategist as well. Good morning, Marie.
Good morning, Richard. How are you?
Great. Appreciate some of your time as you join us from our nation's capital this morning. Have you spent any time around Caroline Leavitt?
I have not, but I have a number of colleagues who have been in her orbit, and she is just a star. She is young, she is fierce, and she is smart. She's a communicator. She understands the president, and she's loyal, and man, is she doing an amazing job.
It really is incredible. I mean, almost on a daily basis, when you watch these White House press briefings, and the fact that they're happening on a daily basis, we're not only hearing from the press secretary, but the president himself on a daily basis is kind of incredible in his own right. But watching her navigate the White House press corps and really not taking anything from anybody has been incredibly impressive.
It is impressive. It's impressive what they've done across the entire communications vertical at the White House. They have, and we saw this in the campaign, they have pushed traditional media out the door, and they have found a way for the president and his surrogates to communicate directly with people. We're doing that on social media. We're doing it through being really accessible at the White House press conferences and making them available to everyone. Caroline does a MAGA Minute, which is kind of a wrap up of what happened every week. So no matter where you consume your media, and no matter what type of personality or demographic you identify with, they are reaching those people.
I'm intrigued in your perspective as a former policy director with the RGA, shaping the message, shaping the policy that Republican governors are trying to implement, or were trying to implement in their roles. Watching the job that Stephen Miller is doing, you know that better than most that being a policy director and kind of laying out a platform is not the same thing as implementing a platform and following through on that. And when you watch Stephen Miller, who we've seen in a lot of press conferences and a lot of one-on-one interviews, his ability to lay out the agenda, but then also follow through or have others follow through on what that agenda is. What's your take on that side of the kind of the business of politics that's happening right now?
Well, let me first say that Stephen Miller is very smart. He is one of the smartest people in this country, and he not only believes in helping President Trump achieve his agenda, he now knows how to do it. There's no question that when the president announced his chief of staff, Susie Wiles, who also, by the way, is doing an incredible job, the next announcement was Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller. Stephen is controlling the policy operation, but more importantly, when I've run transitions for governors, and I have done that a number of times, you always want to make sure that your cabinet respects your chief of staff and your chief policy director, or whatever that title may be, because at the end of the day, the president expects his key staff to work with his cabinet to move the agenda. And Trump 1.0, there were a lot of cabinet officials who kind of had their own personalities. I'm being a little diplomatic about that, but clearly that didn't work out so well. And we could go through all of those former cabinet officials. In Trump 2.0, everyone who was put in that role were loyal to Trump. They're change agents. And I give a ton of credit to Stephen and Susie for really being thoughtful in who they put in those roles for the president.
I'm glad you brought up Susie Wiles. I have said, and you and I may have even talked about this the last time we visited, that outside of perhaps J.D. Vance, I think she's the most important person in this administration. I had someone tell me over the weekend that so apparently there's a weekly lunch with the Republican caucus, and Susie Wiles was invited as the guest speaker a week or two ago. And there were a number of legislators who were kind of, this is behind closed doors. It's not for everybody to consume. And there were a number of legislators that were kind of, I don't know if attacking is the right word, but were being a little aggressive with their questions with her about tariffs. And she kind of shut the whole thing down by saying, look, every one of you has my cell phone number. If you've got a specific question, call me. We'll talk about it. But all we're doing is wasting time here. Is there other business to get to? How is it that she is operating on a daily basis? I thought that was just a little bit of a glimpse kind of behind the curtain as to the way she's handling legislators and the way she's trying to keep things moving forward.
Well, I think she gets to operate in a place where the president said what he was going to do when he ran for president, and now he's doing what he said he was going to do. He's not doing anything that the American voters didn't vote him in office. So the tariffs were already always part of the equation. We know that's how he negotiates. The Senate knows, I assume it was with the Senate breakfast, knows that that's how he negotiates. And they've been through this before. And look, there's so much to cover, particularly as it relates to funding our government, which is probably what she wanted to turn the conversation to is, are you going to pass the CR? What are we going to do with reconciliation and all these other really important things, Congress, that you need to be doing? Leave the tariffs to me and the Department of Commerce and the president to figure out. But look, he said he was going to do this. And so we're seeing these 100 days, immigration reform, trade reform. You can just keep going on down. All the things he said he was going to do, he's doing. And the American people are giving him high marks for it. The recent polling has his approval up. And look, if you're a Democrat right now, you're trying to get your footing. We're trying to figure out what you're for and what you're against at this point.
Let's stick with the tariff conversation just for a second, because I think there are a lot of reasonable people that can look at this and say, okay, one, it's a negotiating tool. Two, it's about leveling the playing field for the United States. But there is the chance, and maybe we're even already seeing it, for real pain for a lot of groups. And some of those groups are affected in Mississippi. I mean, the farm community in Mississippi is looking at this, looking at exports, most of which go to foreign countries. The shipping community is looking at this and looking at massive price hikes. What's the balance here between this is good policy and it's going to be short-term pain for a long-term payoff versus there are entire industries that are being crippled as we go through this process?
Well, that's a great question, and I do a lot of work on these issues. Look, I have the long-term view. I believe that this is going to settle out. The president's going to negotiate with countries, and the tariffs will settle out. They are taking stakeholder meetings. They're trying to understand supply chains, and I have the longer-term view on this, that things will settle out. I will say that the president's very concerned about the economy. He's watching the markets, so I think his advisors are keenly aware of some of these challenges. But again, he said he was going to do this. He's trying to find where the United States needs to be in the world economy. And he feels like some things need to be right-sized. And I think we're going to see that in the short term. Clearly, Congress is concerned. Obviously, our senators and our congressmen from Mississippi are probably communicating to the president that we have some businesses that are really concerned about their ability to compete. But I have just a longer term view, Richard, that this is going to settle out in the long term, and the president and his advisors have the end in sight.
Visiting with Marie Sanderson, GOP strategist, former policy director with the RGA. Have you got time to hang with us through the break and spend a few more minutes visiting?
Yeah.
Okay. I know you got a busy day in D.C. and don't want to hold you up. Several things I'd love to talk about on the other side of this. One of those things is the change in funding that we're going to see at the state level, and kind of how that pertains to Mississippi in this conversation about tax reform, federal assistance that is coming to the state level. I will ask you, we've only got 30 seconds or so until the break. When you look at the tax reform debate that's happening in Mississippi, do you fall on one side or the other of this debate about the elimination of income tax?
I'm absolutely for the elimination of income tax. Absolutely for that. I think that would be good for our state, and our neighbors are doing it, and I absolutely am for that.
All right, we'll talk about what some of the cuts at the federal level might mean for Mississippi on the other side of this break. Visiting with Marie Sanderson, really sharp political mind. She's in Washington, D.C., former policy director for the Republican Governors Association. She's been a political strategist for a long time. We got more coming up with you. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. Quick time out, more with Marie on the other side of this break. Don't go anywhere. You want to jump in the conversation, you've got it. C-Spire text line, 601-879-4395.
From the Venable Glass.
Take a deep dive into the news and debates driving the day, all on your ride to work. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi.
Thanks for spending part of your Tuesday morning with us. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. Marie Sanderson is my guest as we start things off. Busy rest of the show today. She is former policy director for the RGA, GOP strategist in Washington, D.C. this morning, and kind enough to spend a few minutes with us. Marie, I was mentioning before the break, we know that Mississippi, like most states, is reliant on federal funding. Some say Mississippi more reliant than other states. Medicare, Medicaid is a program that appears to be in line for reform. There are people that have talked about a block grant where, hey, here's your amount of money, figure out how to spend it. The rest of it's on you. The elimination of the Department of Education. And I feel like not much ado about nothing, but we don't rely nearly as much on federal dollars for state education funding as some people want you to believe. So when we're talking about tax reform and we're talking about revenue going down because of an elimination of the state income tax and perhaps a change in the way federal money is allocated, what's your level of concern in balancing those things, revenue versus expenditures at the state level?
Well, there's nothing worse than a backseat quarterback, so I'm not going to backseat quarterback for the legislature. But, the president has said he's not going to cut Medicaid. I do think that he's going to make reforms to the program. When I worked for, this is going to date me, but when I worked for Governor Barber in 2010, he went up to Capitol Hill, led a group of Republican governors and said, look, we can take a reduction in money to Mississippi. We can find savings. And so he worked at the time to say, we can take a 2.5% cut over time and absorb that. And so, look, states have waste. We know that whether you like Doge or dislike Doge, there are a lot of things that they're finding that is showing that there's waste in our system. As it relates to tax reform, again, I worked on this in 2007 when Governor Barber ran it. I had the ability and the pleasure of staffing Mr. Leland Speed, who chaired that for Governor Barber at the time. And our recommendations back then were to reduce the income tax and to phase it in. A lot of states are doing this. You're seeing people with high disposable income around the country moving to places with low income tax. That's what they're doing. On the other side of the coin, do you have to raise taxes in other places? Perhaps. But you're seeing more and more that we shouldn't tax income, that we should encourage people to work. And that's what allows wealth to be created in these states and ultimately creates more taxpayer funding to help improve services around the state.
I was having a conversation with a legislator in Mississippi yesterday, and this person said that, I'm just not thrilled about the idea of raising sales tax. And I said, well, I kind of look at the sales tax piece of it and say, okay, I'm paying for something that I'm buying. I'm paying for a service here. I'm okay with that if you take away the income tax piece of it. And this legislator said there just don't seem to be that many Mississippians that are jumping up and down saying, we've got to eliminate the state income tax, although there's a pretty different message, especially coming from the House side in Mississippi with regard to eliminating the income tax.
Look, it might be a balance. And again, I'm not involved in negotiations, so I don't want to, provide opinions. And those in the legislature are going to do what they think is best for the state. But anytime you can reduce the tax burden, that's a very good thing. Our neighboring states are doing that. And I'm absolutely for what they think we can afford. Will there be uncertainty at the federal level? I do think that things are going to change, but more importantly, I think things are going to change in how we spend money. There'll be more transparency. The states will have more authority, and those are all good things for our state and for states across the country.
Let's take a peek quickly at the judiciary right now. We're seeing district court judges, unelected but rather appointed district court judges, making rulings that overrule the executive branch, specifically the president. The most recent one has to do with deportations and these flights to El Salvador with illegal immigrants. What is your take on some of the judicial overreach that many people are calling it that we're seeing right now, and this balance of power between the judicial branch and the executive branch?
People argue about the power of the courts all the time. The irony is that the left is so much better at this than we are, whether it be stopping environmental permitting, stopping what President Trump is doing, some of the social changes. The courts have always been more so lately activist courts. So, look, you're seeing that. I'm not surprised at all. And where they choose to have these cases depends on the makeup of the courts in certain areas. I think a lot of this will go to the Supreme Court, so it'll be interesting to see how that phases out. So again, but we've always had this battle, and we've always had the left has always been better at this than we are, and in some ways we're catching up to some of this on our side. But when you have someone in the White House, you're always going to have the other side throw whatever they can, and right now the only thing they have left is to throw the courts at the president.
It's interesting to me when I hear you say this is going to go, most of these things are going to go to the Supreme Court. And I agree with you that that's where they're going to end up. And there are a lot of people on the right that feel like, okay, maybe that's a good thing, because it feels like the balance in the Supreme Court right now leans a little more conservative. And yet some of the recent rulings that we have seen, especially with Amy Coney Barrett kind of turning into a swing vote, perhaps leaning a little less conservative. I know it's supposed to be nonpartisan. We all know that's a myth. When you see some of these decisions heading to the Supreme Court, do you see a positive outcome largely for the Trump administration?
I think more often than not, we will. Sure, some of these, justices have different opinions than we thought they would. But I think the Supreme Court is much better now than it would have been if we had a Democrat in the White House if Hillary Clinton would have won. So I think we just have to wait and see what happens. That's why it's so important to have a Republican president, a Republican Senate to confirm conservative judges, not only at the Supreme Court, but throughout the court system across the country.
I know I'm peppering you with a number of issues. Let's hit on a couple of foreign policy things, and then we'll cut you loose. And certainly, again, appreciate your time this morning. Israel launching strikes against Gaza. It appears that the ceasefire negotiations were not going the way that they wanted. The hostages were not being released as quickly as many expected they would be or should have been. And Israel kind of re-engaging with those airstrikes on Gaza. Where does this go?
Look, I trust the president and his team. He's looking for peace. I think that region of the country is so troubled. You hope that we head towards a ceasefire, and I think Secretary Rubio, the president, and others who are negotiating, and more so just from a prayer standpoint, the deeply religious, and that's such an important part of our faith, is that part of the country, and I pray that the Trump and his staff are going to negotiate a peace there. That's my hope.
You mentioned Marco Rubio, and he was of the cabinet officials. He was confirmed unanimously. I guess it was 99-0. He didn't vote for himself in the confirmation process. How do you grade what he has done in that position as Secretary of State over the last couple of months?
I think Secretary Rubio, despite what people say that he's not of the MAGA brand, is doing a great job channeling the president's vision. A lot of people trust him. He had large roles in foreign policy in the Senate. And so a lot of people who are trying to understand President Trump and his views about foreign policy and national security are happy that Secretary Rubio is at the table. He has a good team. He's sort of like a lot of these cabinet officials. They surrounded themselves with good people. And I'm very comfortable with the value that Secretary Rubio brings to these conversations.
And then last thing, we've seen the Houthis with kind of rattling cages, and they're saying the United States can't be in the Red Sea and other parts of that part of the world, and push back pretty strongly on that. I don't even know what country they're representing. When you have a terrorist organization that says you can't do this, we seem to push back pretty strongly. In terms of that part of the world, and it's so intertwined, right, with Russia and Ukraine and everything else that's going on, is there a clear message that the United States is sending?
Peace through strength. I think the president, has said, America first, we're going to be strong. We're going to get back to where we where people believed that if they messed with the United States, that was the wrong thing to do. So I think he's showing we have strength, we have power. I want peace, but you're not going to mess with the United States. And, redefining this group as a terrorist organization and going on offense is very much on brand for Trump. And so I'm sure we'll see more of that as he tries to protect United States interests across the world.
Marie, always enjoy the conversation. Thanks so much for your time. Safe travels to you, and I look forward to visiting soon.
Thanks, Richard. Have a great day.
Marie Sanderson, former policy director with the RGA, political strategist, joining us from Washington, D.C. this morning. We'll take a quick time out. We've got a whole lot more coming up with you as we make our way through, about halfway through Mornings with Richard Cross on this Tuesday morning. Don't forget, C-Spire text line is open to you at 601-879-4395. Give your business the edge with gigabit fiber internet. Haley Fisackerly joins us next, president and CEO of Entergy Mississippi. What's going on at Entergy in the wake of this weekend's storms, tornadoes across the Magnolia State? We'll get to that next on MRC.
I never dreamed that I'd meet somebody like you.
Mississippi.
Brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
From Duck Hill to Alligator, Mississippians start their day the right way. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Thanks for being with us on MRC on this Tuesday morning as you get your day started. Maybe you're on your way to work. Maybe you're trying to get the kids to school and on time. Glad to have you along for the ride. Join us on the C Spire text line. Best way for you to be a part of the conversation, 601-879-4395. We stick with guests, and we're going to do that for much of the rest of the morning. Trey Lamar is going to join us at 8 o'clock. Chapel Hart going to be with us at the bottom of the 8 o'clock hour. But right now, Haley Fisackerly jumps on with us. He is president and CEO of Entergy Mississippi. Mr. Fisackerly, good morning to you. I'm assuming that sleep has been a little hard to come by for the last 48 to 72 hours. I know a lot on your plate and on the plate of the entire team at Entergy Mississippi.
Good morning, Richard. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to talk to our customers. And yes, our people have been working hard around the clock to restore service after these storms, and we appreciate their hard work.
You know, I hesitate to say this because it feels like it could be unsympathetic. It could have been a lot worse this weekend. But I feel like when you say it could have been worse, you're minimizing the impact for those customers that you have, for those Mississippians who had their lives devastated. And the crazy thing about the storms that we had on Friday and throughout the day on Saturday, they were spread all over the state of Mississippi. There were lots of different communities, lots of different pockets of the state that were affected by the severe thunderstorms, the tornadoes, and even a small earthquake that showed on the Richter scale.
Richard, you're so right. What makes this state so great are our rural communities. They're the heart of this state. And you're right. We were fortunate the heavy population areas were done. In fact, I had some customers, some people say to me over the weekend, "Oh, I bet you're okay. It's not nearly the number of outages." I said, well, the damage is horrible. Yeah. And we probably saw from a damage standpoint, assets, probably one of the worst storms we've seen in some time. And so, and I can share some of those facts, but we did have at a peak only around 9,000 customers. And so when you look at our 460,000 customers, that's not bad. But over that day, two different systems, as you know, that came through, it impacted about 24,000 customers, but it devastated us in Grenada, Walthall, and Pike counties there, as well as other communities, but they were our hardest hit areas.
Yeah, and I feel like in terms of loss of life, Walthall and some injuries that were related as well, that may have been the most significantly hit area, but you mentioned parts of Grenada County, some of the images that we've seen out of there, and Pike County as well. So kind of walk us through in terms of the footprint that Entergy has and some of the effect that your customers are dealing with.
Well, keep in mind, Entergy serves basically the western part of the state. Yes, we have co-ops and communities wrapped in there, but our service area pretty much follows I-55 from Memphis all the way down to Louisiana, where we join up with our sister companies there. 45 counties. So we did have outages from top to bottom. So we were dealing with a scattered approach, which spreads out your resources and things of that nature. But the worst, Elliott community in Grenada County outside of Grenada was hit really hard with the morning storm. We had tremendous damage impacting not only distribution facilities, hundreds of poles down, but also it hit a major transmission line that feeds a substation into that area. And that was probably, from an asset standpoint, one of our areas. Just to give you an idea, we had well over 200 utility poles down, over 30 transformers, 190 poles, cross arms, 18 to 20 miles of line down. But the worst part was we also had a lot of transmission structures. These are the large structures that feed into the substations that power a grid. And we have over 34 structures down from these tornadoes. And so I haven't, in my 17 years in this position, 30 years with the company, I don't recall that many transmission structures down at one time. So tornadoes just rode circuits down there. In some of these communities, you may have a pole down or here. We had to rebuild entire circuits. Yet first, though, the amount of debris everywhere that had to be cleared. So it really was a tough restoration effort for our workers.
And you're using the past tense there. I mean, are you largely back online just 72 hours out?
So we have most customers back on. There are some that will be going until tonight that can receive power. The sad part is, Richard, some will not be able to take power back, cause a total loss. But we're down. We had a big segment come back in early this morning around 12:30 in that Elliott area. So we're down to just under 200. Most of those will be, everybody that can take power will be back on tonight. The transmission work will continue. So the grid works and flow power into different ways. So we have some transmission circuits that are still being rebuilt and will be over the next few days. And so that work will continue.
So when Entergy is in the immediate aftermath of a storm, there are more ways than one to fix the issue. There may be a master fix that has to happen, but do you take the approach of almost duct tape and baling wire initially? Like, we're going to do what we've got to do to just get power back to houses and businesses and kind of patchwork it until we can do the fix the proper way?
Well, Richard, technology has brought us a long way, and we're in the midst of a major reliability reinvestment program, and we're deploying new devices and stuff. We have self-healing networks, devices that can do that. So usually after a storm comes through, yes, we have to do assessments. Make sure a lot of times a line could be out just because a tree is leaning on a line. It just needs to be clear, and a fuse needs to be closed back again. And when that can happen, our DOC Distribution Operations Center can work to reroute power into some areas if we can safely do so. But assessments have to happen. When we go to rebuild, yeah, we may do some minor fixes to come back and do a major fix later. But what we're really like in this situation, there were so many lines and line segments. We're coming back in with new standards, stronger poles, shorter spans, and making that system better. And so it doesn't cost us any time. What we've learned to do is storms have changed. The history, the data we have is telling us we have to build stronger. The old standards do not work anymore. So we are putting inventory in place to give us the type of materials we need to take advantage of these situations to improve the system going forward. So we do all of that. And so it's more than that. We do our best to build it back stronger.
Forgive me if this is an ignorant question. I think about new construction. A new neighborhood is built from the ground up, and all of the power lines are underground, right? You've got the box transformers, and everything is underground. Obviously, that's not historically how it's been done. It's been with above-ground power lines. So at the local level, we're seeing communities try to go toward that direction. But it's really, really expensive to take existing above ground lines and get them underground, and to do that for an entire neighborhood or an entire city. What about it at your level when we're talking about major transmission lines? Moving forward, do you go toward an underground system, or is that just not financially even something that you can look at?
Transmission lines, these are high voltage lines.
Okay.
And so, no, that is you would not look at undergrounding that. It would be really costly, but also creates some operational challenges as well when you deal with the high voltage lines here. Our lowest voltage line, transmission line, is a 115,000 kV kilovolt line. The service, to put that in perspective, and they go up all the way to 500 kV lines that move the bulk electric to the substations and on down from there. The distribution circuits that we serve our customers are around 13,800 volt. So to give you a perspective on that, you're right. We're seeing new developers today of neighborhoods going that extra expense to put things underground. The way the industry is regulated, we set standards around rates, how rates are set. So the standard is around above ground construction. And then from there, there's a cost differential, and developers are doing that, or homeowners will do that. We are in the midst of a major study taking a look at that. And what you're going to see us doing forward is a hybrid approach, where it may make sense to take certain line segments and put them underground. But you're right. in old neighborhoods. Like I used to live in the Fondren area of Jackson. Sure. Old historic neighborhoods, a lot of rear lot lines, people will come in and trees and stuff, and it's just too costly to take something like that. There may be a segment or two where you may try to avoid some other hazards or risks. You may do that, but going forward, we are looking at more of that. We're seeing more developers doing that, and so that does help it. But the transmission system does have those exposures, but the materials we're using and the technology we're using is making it more robust and reliable.
Hey, quickly, we've only got a minute until the break here. We know if a hurricane hits the Gulf, you almost see an immediate spike of gas prices at the pump. Do storms that come through our state affect rates for customers?
Well, the way we work the Mississippi Public Service Commission, within our rates, we have a storm rider that is always collecting funds, and we use that. Only in a rare occasion have we ever had to go out there, and that would be like Katrina. And so we try to work with the commission to keep an adequate fund there that is funded through a small portion of the rates that go to customers there.
Haley Fisackerly, President and CEO, Entergy Mississippi. I know it's been a busy few days for you. Always appreciate your time and you speaking to the folks in Mississippi.
Thank you, Rich. Appreciate the opportunity to talk to our customers.
Absolutely. We'll talk again soon. Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk Mississippi. We're back with you right after this.
From the Venable Glass.
Good morning, Mississippi. You're starting your day off right.
Welcome to
Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk Mississippi.
C-Spire text line. Matthew in Grenada says our community around Camp McCain has been without power since Friday night. It's been hard on everyone, but Entergy has crews everywhere and is working hard to get it back up. We appreciate them. Yeah, man, that's hard. Really hard, Matthew. And I'm speaking only for myself, but I think many of you can relate. I take for granted, the basic services that we need and that we use. And when the power goes out or the water goes out or you've got a gas outage, you recognize that, man, it's really hard to go through life on a daily basis without the stuff that we have to pay for, but we need and we are very much accustomed to. Talked earlier about the fact that Ole Miss and Mississippi State men's and women's basketball teams are all in the NCAA tournament. They're playing in different places. Ole Miss's men's team is in Milwaukee. Mississippi State's men's team is in Raleigh. Mississippi State's women's team is in Los Angeles, and Ole Miss's women's team is in Waco. So if you're traveling for these tournaments, you know that there's expense, and it's hard to just jump and go. Well, at the University of Kentucky, the head basketball coach, and by the way, Milwaukee, where Kentucky is going to be, same place that Ole Miss is going to be, a whole lot closer to Lexington than it is to Oxford. But Mark Pope, the head basketball coach in his first year at Kentucky, on his radio show, decided that he wanted to try to make it easier for Kentucky fans. Take a listen to this.
I'm going to say something I'm going to regret, but it's only a 7-hour drive. If anybody's having trouble with gas money, hit me up. Let's go. Let's get all BBN out there. I'm not going to tell you how to hit me up because I'm nervous about how many people are about to hit me up. I had this ridiculous notion one night after a game to buy everybody that was left in the arena ice cream. It cost me a little bit more than I anticipated. But it's all family, baby. It's all family. Let's go.
All right, so how's that going for Mark Pope, the head basketball coach at Kentucky? He expounded a little bit later in the show as the messages immediately started coming in, even without him giving his name or email address.
Call on my part. My executive assistant just handed me a phone, and there's a whole slew of emails coming to the office. Hi, I'm Jack. I won't say the last name, and a student here at UK. I'm in Florida currently for spring break, so I got to pay for gas from Florida all the way to Milwaukee. But I get back early Friday morning. If you could throw me some gas money or a ticket, it just went from gas money to a ticket. I drive myself and my girlfriend up to Milwaukee to catch her first tournament game. All right, listen, Jack, here's the deal. I'm going to try and hit you back, man. I'm doing my best.
All right, so Mark Pope doing his best to take care of that. You got to be careful when you throw something like that out. Although Mark Pope, I think, can probably afford to handle that issue. He's the head basketball coach at the University of Kentucky with a $5 million salary, part of a 5-year, $27.5 million contract. So he can do some good and generate some goodwill there. I like the idea. The execution may be a little tough.
Yeah, you need like a special promo code or something to weed out some of that.
It's like, hey, here's gas money up to, I don't know, $200 for the first 100 people that hit me up, or the first 50 students that hit me up. You got to show. I don't know how you do that.
Or go to one of the major gas chains there and partner up with them and say, hey, for every $1 you spend, I'll put in $2 or whatever, or something. But that was an odd way to throw it out there. Just kind of like, hey, man, if you need gas money, like, oh, really? Okay.
And nothing like, as a precursor to what you're about to say, I'm really going to regret this, but here we go.
Here we go.
I do hope that he talked with his wife about that. Probably not. Yeah. That felt like a very much organic
executive decision there.
I'm going to regret doing this, but here you go.
Well, he will endear himself to a lot of fans that I'm sure will be greatly appreciative of that gesture, even if in the event they can't take him up on it. But that is a very nice thing to do, especially when you're making that kind of money. But,
that's pretty awesome. Hey,
check.
I'm in Florida for spring break, but
I need a ticket, by the way,
And if you could handle a ticket in addition to the gas money, that would be great. We are going to start things off in the 8 o'clock hour with Trey Lamar. He's chair of the House Ways and Means Committee, represents Tate County primarily. He has been intimately involved from the very beginning with the House side of things in terms of the tax reform conversation. Got a little bit of an amended version of House Bill 1 yesterday from the House side. We also got an amended version of the Senate tax reform bill. For the first time, the Mississippi Senate has put forth a proposal that would take the state income tax all the way to zero. However, I think this may be a sticking point. We'll ask Trey Lamar about this in a little while. There is not a timeline on the Senate's bill for getting to zero in terms of tax, and there are triggers that are in place. There's a quote from Trey Lamar yesterday, and maybe even some others on the House side were quoted in this, saying the language surrounding the triggers is going to be the most important part. What is that language? They didn't have all the fine print on the placard that they put together that showed kind of the four tenets of the Senate bill. And then how does PERS figure into this? We'll get into that conversation coming up next. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi, 8 o'clock hour coming up.
Want to know what's being said in the halls of the Capitol? You're in the right place. Mornings with Richard Cross continues on Super Talk Mississippi.
With Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi. Thank you for being with us. At some point in the future, you are going to be in the market for a new or a pre-owned automobile, whether that is tomorrow or next week or next month or maybe a couple of years from now. When you start that process, I would encourage you to reach out to my friends at Belk Ford and Oxford Toyota. They're located on Highway 6 West in Oxford. The Belk family has been in the automobile business for over 100 years. Whether you're looking for an F-150, the best-selling truck in America for 48 years, an Expedition, or maybe something a little bit smaller, something pre-owned, they've got a great selection on the lot. They'll get you the best financing deals that you can find anywhere. A family company that treats you like family when you walk in the door. It doesn't matter if you live on the Gulf Coast or in the Pine Belt or in North Mississippi, or you're right there in Oxford, right here in Oxford where I sit. Do what I do. Check in with Belk Ford when it's time to get a new vehicle and let them make the best deal that they can for you. There's a better way at Belk Ford. This is Mornings with Richard Cross. Glad to be with you. You can join the conversation on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. Give your business the edge with gigabit fiber internet from C Spire. Trey Lamar joins us this morning. He is the House Ways and Means Chair. He represents Tate County and the surrounding area. That is District 8. He was going at it late last night. He's got his coffee. He's ready to go this morning. Headed to the Capitol here in just a little while. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Richard.
Appreciate a few minutes of your time. I thought, let's rewind. Week and a half ago, the speaker was on with Gerard on middays, and I sent a message to him after the interview. I said, you sound more optimistic that there is a deal to be made with the Senate to get tax reform done than I've heard at any point in this session. And he said to me, we're really, really close. I think he gave me like the little two-finger emoji where you hold the thumb and the pointer finger together. He's like, we're this close.
Yeah.
And then I was out of town last week for spring break with my family, and I guess it was early in the week. It's like, oh, it all blew up. They're not close anymore. And then yesterday, it legitimately felt like we were closer as both the House and the Senate offered amended plans, which for the first time, both plans show a complete elimination, eventually, of the state income tax. So, my question, as we start, how close are you?
We remain close. Let me start by saying this, Richard. I want to thank the Senate for what they did yesterday. I have continued throughout the session. You know, we passed House Bill 1, the first version of House Bill 1, back in early January, maybe the second week of the session. And since that time, I have tried to work and talk with the Senate to convince them that income tax elimination is what the taxpayers of Mississippi want and what they need in large measures. It's what's best for our future as a state. And so throughout the session, we've been ready, and I'd say the last month or so, we've continued. We've talked. We've had good conversations. Then about 2 weeks ago, you know, things fell apart a little bit. But I remained hopeful that the Senate would come back to the table, and so they did that yesterday. And for the very first time, they put income tax elimination, at least some version of it in modern English, written on a piece of white paper for the public to see. And so that is the very first time they have ever done that. And I'm thankful that they did it. And you know, we yesterday in the House and the Ways and Means Committee passed out a revised House Bill 1 that has some of the changes that I, quite frankly, had asked the Senate to make all along throughout this year. We went ahead and made those, and I submit a much better House Bill 1, new and improved, that eliminates the income tax over that 11-year time frame, and takes care of taxpayers for years to come. So
yeah,
excited about that.
We want to talk about what's in that. Obviously, Jason White, Speaker of the House, Delbert Hosemann, Lieutenant Governor, they are at the top of the food chain. But in terms of the way things get done in the legislature, they delegate people to do different things. You have worked as the lead on tax reform on the House side. I think Josh Harkins has worked as the lead on the Senate. Is he the person that you are primarily communicating with on the Senate side?
Yes. Josh is, in addition to being a good friend of mine, he's a good human being. I enjoy working with Senator Harkins, and I am very thankful for his continued work and his hard work throughout the session to get his leadership and the people that he answers to in the Senate to where they are today. And, you know, they made a giant step yesterday, and I'm hopeful that there is a place in between where they were yesterday and where the House is now in revised House Bill 1 that we can get a deal done.
If you get to the finish line and there's only like one or two sticking points left, you think you and Senator Harkins might just like do an Oklahoma drill or play bull in a ring, and, you know, whoever wins, that's the proposal that wins? Like, just, yeah, like fight it out?
He didn't want none of that. Yeah, he may pick another game. He'd pick a different game.
Oh, me.
I'm gonna pay for that one later today.
Yeah, I'm texting with him right now. I'm gonna wait. I can't wait to see what this is. Yeah.
Thanks for teeing that up, though.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Maybe it could be a 2 out of 3. Maybe you could do a football drill, a basketball drill, and then a baseball drill, and we could. I'm wasting time. My apologies. All right, so an amended House Bill 1. We have gone through in great detail what was in the original House Bill 1. Tell us what's different with House Bill 1 as amended than where it started.
So what we did in House Bill 1 is a couple of changes. Let me give you the big picture. The big picture is we still got about a $2.2 billion net tax cut, gross tax cut over about 11 years. And then on the slight raises of the sales tax and the gas tax, that's around $700 to $750 million. So we actually added some additional cuts in House Bill, the revised House Bill 1, and those were aimed at our retirees, our seniors. And so what I've heard over the last 2 months is, look, some people say, well, it hurts retirees. Well, it really didn't hurt retirees, but maybe
there was a perception that it did.
There was a perception that it did. So I want to address that. And I think, look, if we're going to have the most comprehensive tax reform in the history of our state, then let's do it. And certainly, working Mississippians are our goal. We want to take care and we want to help working Mississippians and incentivize work. But those retirees work their whole life too. And so I've been thinking, how can we help them? And what we did is we added an additional annual $200 credit off their homestead. So the seniors 65 and older and our disabled folks will have a $200 credit to their homestead off their property taxes.
Where did you get that number? Where did you get $200 is the right number?
$200, well, the math had to work. So $200 comes from, it cost us around $70 million to do that. And so that's fit with the math on the general fund side and the taxpayer side, and that's what that cost.
PERS is the other piece of this. In the initial House Bill 1, you said you were addressing PERS. There was $100 million a year that was going to that, would be directed to it until it hit 80% fully funding. Somebody said it would take till about year 3,000 at that $100 million level to fully fund, or at least to get it to the 80% level. I did point out that you said we recognize that fully doesn't come close to fixing PERS, but then we'll allocate as needed to handle it on a year-to-year basis. I felt like that was kind of lost in the conversation. The original Senate bill did not address PERS at all. This new bill does, but it does so with the Tier 5 system that would go into effect, I think it's July 1 of 2026. What's the compromise there? Because senators have been quick to point out that, hey, $100 billion doesn't do anything. It doesn't even cover the increase in the liability on a year-over-year basis. This is not actually addressing PERS. It's just window dressing.
I disagree with that. The PERS problem is a math problem, and it's fixed a couple different ways. So we started it last year by adding a 2.5% increase to the taxpayer side, that's the employers. That's state government, that's cities, that's counties, that's schools, all across the board are going to have to pay a 2.5 cent more into PERS. It went from 17.4 to 19.9 over 4 or 5 years. So that's a money issue there. So we've already done it. The Senate agreed to spend $110 million last year on the money side to give to PERS. So the Senate is on record saying that they know the money is an issue. Fifth tier could be part of that, and I'm certainly willing to have those conversations as we continue the negotiation of the tax bill. But nobody can doubt PERS has a money problem. So $100 million a year that we don't have to fight over every single year, that comes in automatically with the lottery, to take care of that issue and take that burden off our general fund going forward, coupled with the other reforms that we've had, is an important piece of the puzzle. And that's what House Bill 1 does, and hopefully we'll have some good conversations with the Senate about that.
But how does $100 million fix a $26 billion problem? Even though that's in the aggregate, that's not a yearly problem.
Yeah, so let me talk about that. People say that, and what the people who may say that, whether it be senators or the like, say that, and it scares the fire out of our retirees, and that's unfortunate. There is no $25 billion problem tomorrow, okay? What they're looking at over 30, 40, 50, 60 years. And so
there's a total liability in PERS for about $26 billion.
And when you put $100 million into that actuarial math and that actuarial formula, and you schedule it out over 30, 40 years, $100 million a year makes a big difference. It does.
Quick time out. We're going to continue the conversation with Trey Lamar, chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee. On the House side of things, we're back with you. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Get the inside track on Mississippi politics. Yeah! Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
scene from House of Cards when Frank Underwood was he was whipping votes and was trying to get everybody in line, and they were working on some major bill, and they basically took a bunch of young staffers and they locked them in a room and said, "Don't leave until it gets done. Under any circumstances, you're not leaving. If you got to sleep, you lie on the floor, you take a nap. If you need something to eat, you can do it. There's a bathroom around the corner. Don't leave."
Well, but
is there a scenario where there's a don't leave debate?
That sounds like the last 2 weeks of the legislative session every year, Richard. That's a lot of that going on. So, yeah, I think so. I mean, look, I'm excited about it. Look, whatever you did, we may have to do it today because you've already got Senator Harkins is already calling the studio up here. He may be ready to schedule the match or the fight or whatever we're going to call it. But you got him fired up.
Yeah, he's all in. Yeah,
I am trying to. I think we were working on the speaker being on tomorrow as well, and so I'm just saying let's do it. We'll block the entire 7 o'clock hour off, and I'd love for Senator Harkins and Speaker of the House White to come in at the same time, and let's just talk it out on the radio. I tried to get that done with Jason and Delbert. Sorry, with the Lieutenant Governor and the Speaker of the House earlier in the session, and
I wish you would keep trying for that.
I am, but it doesn't seem to be working so far.
Yeah.
I put my umpire jersey on.
Hey, where the revenue issue? Where's the revenue growth? From where is the revenue growth coming, and where are the cuts? Because I don't see or hear a lot about cutting.
Well, the good thing about that issue is that we have to have a balanced budget in Mississippi every single year. So, we get to decide what we're going to do with our appropriations, and we don't have to cut when you start with a $700 million surplus. You don't have to cut. What you have to do is control spending, though. So that's exactly what we're doing this year. We've got a appropriation chairman working on a budget that is very, very lean compared to last year. Maybe $20-30 million, something like that, more than last year. But there are no cuts, and so people get caught up in that a lot. We're not cutting government. We don't have to cut government, and I'm hopeful in the future we won't have to. But you know what? I've been here 14 years, and there have been years in the past when taxes were a lot higher than they are today that we had to cut government. It may happen again in the future, and that's what you hire legislators to do, is to handle the purse strings of government. I'm not worried about the future of the state's budget. I mean, it's part of our job, and we're going to do it. But I'm more concerned about the budget of the Mississippi family, the taxpayers' budget, and their pocketbook. Those are the ones that we need to be concerned about, because that's how we are going to grow the private sector economy and businesses and jobs in the state of Mississippi, and that's how we're going to move Mississippi forward for our future.
I don't know if you're aware of this or not. The state auditor has said that there is a significant amount of waste that is happening in government in the state of Mississippi. Do you care to weigh in on that conversation?
Look, the goal needs to be zero waste. Just like my goal on tax reform is to have the number one tax code in America, it should be our goal to have zero waste in government. And so, anytime that's pointed out, the legislature needs to look at it, address it, and get rid of it.
There's one thing in the Senate bill that strikes me as a little bit concerning, and it's not so much that there are triggers on the road to full income tax elimination. It's that there's, at least so far, ambiguity about what those triggers are. I know I saw a quote from you yesterday that said that language is going to be really important as to what the triggers are. Yeah. So it brings the income tax rate down, and then I guess at that point it starts to look at, okay, what are the expenditures? What does the legislature spend in a given year? And that will affect how much it continues to go down until it's ultimately eliminated. What do you know about the trigger language right now?
So the Senate did include some trigger language in the bill they passed yesterday. I have not had a chance to study it. It just hit late yesterday. I plan on studying that today to determine, see how it works. I look forward to hearing from Senator Harkins on that. The House has not included a trigger in any of our bills at this point, and we think that the 2022 tax cut didn't have a trigger in it. And, that's why the legislature comes to Jackson every single year, and if there needs to be some changes made or control the budget or make cuts, then we can do that, like I said a minute ago. But I'm not opposed to a trigger. But the last thing I will ever be a part of, and I know I speak for my entire House delegation and colleagues, is that I will not be part of a bill that tells the people of Mississippi we eliminated your income tax, but that doesn't really work and we don't get the income tax elimination. My word is too important to me for that, and we're not going to do that. So if we do have any type of trigger in a final product, it will have to be measured, fully vetted, where we feel comfortable telling the people of Mississippi that this will work every year from here on out.
Well, and to me, if there's a trigger, or if we want to call it a look-in, it needs to be a temporary thing, not an ongoing thing. Like, there is a specific reason that you are pausing for a year or for 2 years, an incremental reduction until you get down to zero, not like this kind of open-ended, well, we're going to take a break on this and we're going to get back to it.
Yeah, and that's where I think the best trigger is having legislators come to Jackson every single year, which is our job, and make a budget. If we come in and government's down $500 million in a year, then, man, we may need to pause it for a year or two until the ship rights. But that's the ability that we have. I can't tell you that's going to happen 10 years from now or 5 years from now or not at all. I have no idea. It's kind of hard to do that in the trigger. But again, I'm thankful that the Senate put income tax elimination on paper, but the devil really is in the details of that trigger, and we're gonna nail down on it and find out what it does, and hopefully reach a conclusion and a deal in the next couple of weeks.
I spoke with a senator yesterday who said, I'm going to have a really hard time voting for a sales tax increase. Yep. My constituents seem to be more concerned about a sales tax increase than they are about income tax elimination. Have you heard feedback along those lines?
Yeah, and this is where some leadership is required. Let me give you these numbers. 2.2, I'm using round numbers, 2.2 billion in cuts, 750 million in increases. Okay, big part of that is gas tax. There's only two places the House bill goes up. It's the gas tax that we haven't increased since 1987, have a broken funding formula, and then the sales tax. The sales tax piece, that's just the general sales tax. That's not our specialty rates. So our farmers still have their breaks. Our industrial folks still have their breaks. None of that is being touched. But the 7% general sales tax that people pay when they go buy their paper towels, that's what we're looking at. And in every state around us, that is 9.5% or 10.5%. And we're at 7%. And so if you want to have a serious conversation on income tax, which obviously we do, you've got to look at that piece of it. And so far, the Senate has been unwilling to look at that. And nobody, if they look at the math, can say, well, man, I don't want to pay that extra penny on my paper towels. That extra penny on the paper towels is more important than a several $1,000 cut to my income tax on my $50,000 a year salary. It makes 0 sense. So all you got to do is look at the math. And if a senator's telling you that, then they're more concerned about the politics of it than actually the policy of it. And I'm begging them, I'm asking them, let's talk about the policy. Let's focus on the policy and why this is best for the people of Mississippi. There is no scenario, Richard, where a person that if the sales tax goes from 7% to 8%, and we eliminate the income tax, there is no scenario where that person is not better off. It's just not. And so,
all right. So I'm doing the math on my head. Let's just say that you have a household of expenditures of $50,000 in a year, and the sales tax goes from 7% to 8%. That means it costs you out of pocket an additional $500 a year, right? Does that math check out?
If you spent $50,000 a year on things subject to a sales tax.
Right. I'm just using that for the purpose of round numbers.
Yeah, but if you did that, you're extremely rich.
Well, but again, I'm just using that. So we're saying for a high income earner, if you spend $10,000 on things that are subject to sales tax in a year, it costs you an additional $100.
There you go.
But the point is, there is likely a bigger reduction in your state income tax as that goes down than there is an increase in what you would pay in sales tax with a 1% increase.
Without question. Substantially more. Let me remind you that we're also reducing the sales tax on groceries. So those Those people
7% to 5%.
7% to 5%.
And that's now immediate, right?
In our bill, it would be immediate. In year one, it would go from 7% to 5% on groceries. And people don't live it on fixed incomes or the salary of they're making $40,000, $50,000 a year. Then that's important. And a large portion of what they spend money on is going to be groceries to feed themselves and their family. People there's not that much things that are subject to a general sales tax. It's just not.
Last thing, real quick. Use tax was added into this, and that was not part of the original bill, right? So anything you buy on the internet would be subject to an 8% use tax, which would match the sales tax?
It just mirrors those things. So whatever you buy on the internet or ship in from out of state has a 7% sales tax right now. We just call it used because it comes from out of state, and they would make sure that the online people don't have an advantage over our brick and mortar businesses across Mississippi. And again,
amen to that.
We added a property tax cut for our retirees. I can't stress the importance of that piece of the new piece of the bill.
So $200 property tax cut for anyone over the age of
65.
65.
And disabled folks.
Trey Lamar, House Ways and Means Committee Chair, thanks so much for coming in this morning.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me, as always.
More MRC after this. Chapel Hart's next.
One morning at a time. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Well, I fixed my crown from leaning, and those wedding bells stopped ringing. I took my keys and threw him at his door. Well, I found a man who loves me, and he'll give me all I need. What a woman could ask for any more? Oh, Jolene, you can have him 'cause he don't.
Welcome back. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. The pride of Poplarville, Mississippi. Maybe you got to know them in 2022 on America's Got Talent when they were just the second group ever that got 4 golden buzzers from the judges. Mainstream, popular, and growing like crazy. Chapel Hart joins us this morning. Devynn, Trea, Danica, good morning to you. What's up?
Good morning. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you. So we are actually on set at a music video shoot, and everybody's kind of getting ready. So we said we wanted to give you guys a little look in our in the day. So Tree's here.
Hey, how are you doing today?
Tree, good morning. Thanks for being with us.
We got Danica.
There she is.
Yes,
couldn't be any more beautiful anyway, but they're doing the makeup thing. All right, so you showed us, if you're watching on Super Talk TV, you got a little bit of a behind-the-scenes look as they get ready to film a music video. Tell us about the process of making a music video. It's one thing to do a song in a studio. It's an entirely different deal to create a music video.
Yes. So, okay. So first you got to kind of get your
Uh-oh. We lost you for a second. There we go. Got you back. Let's try again.
Okay, sorry. So whenever you're doing the music video, you have to get like your concept. What do you want the video to be about? And then you kind of go through the process of getting all the things you need for the video, finding out who's going to be the director, or if you need cast members or hair and makeup or whatever it may be. And then it's just kind of an all-day process once you get all of that together and going and flowing.
Devynn, to me, the music video industry has changed so dramatically. Now, I don't think you're old enough, but when I was younger, I mean, it was MTV and it was VH1, and then there was CMT, right? And it was like music videos all day long. And then those networks transitioned to they were more like content providers. It was shows and less music. But as we have grown on the internet and so many people are going to YouTube, it feels like music videos have kind of reemerged in terms of importance for artists. Do you believe that's true?
I definitely do. And I feel like there was a period where I feel like people kind of didn't have music videos like they did kind of back in the early 2000s or 90s or, whenever. But now it's so important to have the visual, especially like you said with like TikTok and YouTube and Instagram and Reels. Sure. I feel like having the correlation, the visual correlation, is super important to the music nowadays.
It feels to me
usually right in your face.
It feels to me like you and Trey and Danica have been on an absolute rocket ship for the last 3 years in terms of growth and popularity and recognition. I know America's Got Talent is part of that story. Is it the biggest part of the story?
Mm-hmm. I think it plays a really, really big part. I think a lot of people, that's where a lot of people were first introduced to Chapel Hart. And it's so amazing that last year we went to 8 different countries last year.
That's amazing.
And we would go to like the airport in Japan, and one of the ladies that was working the counter, she recognized who we were. Like, so America's Got Talent is played all over the world, and so it's like people all over are still being introduced to who we are, because like I said, somebody just the other day said they just saw it for the first time.
Yeah.
And so I definitely think AGT played a huge role in that.
Do you know my friend Steve Azar? Have you met Steve along the way?
Yes.
So everybody loves Azar, and I asked him this question one time, and I'm curious your take on it. When you've had the kind of success that you've had in a short period of time, how do you fight against the emotion of, hey, we made it, all the hard work was there, versus continuing to work and continuing to push in the way that got you to this point, so that you're not just one-hit wonder is not the right word, but not a flash in the pan, but something that is sustainable over a couple of decades. How do you do that?
I think we've seen so many artists, I feel like history always repeats itself. And I feel like it can be here one day and gone the next. So it's really up to you. And I think you have to determine how far you want to take it. And I think if you know that you want to kind of take it far, you know that you just have to continue to work and continue to always want to get better and to take it to the next level, figuring out what the next level is at each level. And so I feel like it kind of helps you not become stagnant, and it always keeps you moving.
Take me back to the very beginning. Maybe even back in the days when Hyperfly was the name of the group, before you transitioned to Chapel Hart. When this first started, what was the dream?
So even I wasn't here when it first started. It started out with Danica and Trea, and they were just they just decided, let's start busking on the streets of New Orleans. And from there, I think that's whenever they kind of realized, like, hey, this can really turn into something, or, this can be something someday. And then from there, from busking on the street, they moved indoors to like playing actual venues in the city, and just getting to build a fan base and go. But I think even then, it still didn't feel like it could be like they could make a career out of it, even at that point. And then I joined the band in 2018. Now, I don't want to say I was...
Oh, here we go. Here we go. I love it. She said, I'm not saying, I'm just saying.
But no, I think that was like, once we all came together and we heard all the harmonies.
Yeah.
And it was a moment that it was like, you know what, if we're going to do it, we have to start putting out original music and, doing what it is that we really wanted to do, which was country music. And so we just kind of left the cover world. Well, not really left the cover band, but we started the transition and started to perform the songs that we really wanted to sing and the songs that were true to us.
And you know what? That's such an interesting transition for me for a music group, because you have writers, you have groups that want to perform their stuff. But in the early days for a band, you're playing for an audience and they want you to sing somebody else's stuff. And you might even do it better than somebody else has done when you're in that cover world. How hard is that transition, especially with an audience, to take them from, oh, sing this song we love that they did, to, no, you sing me your song?
We were very, very nervous because one thing about our fan base, especially our fans in New Orleans, like, they are very honest.
Yeah.
And all of our fans are super, super honest. And if they don't like something we put out, they're going to let us know. And so, like you said, they were used to us doing cover songs all the time. But now we are putting our original music at their feet. Like, this is what we have, and we hope you like it. And I think when we first made the announcement that we were making the transition and making the change, a lot of our fans were like, I don't know, but we love y'all, so we're gonna rock with it and just kind of see where it goes. And they did, and they loved what we put out, and so it was like, we're gonna keep putting out the music that feels authentic to us and the music that feels real to us, and talking about our stories and growing up in Mississippi.
You did something last October, and I'm sure it was recorded sooner than that a lot of bands do. I just wonder if it's intimidating because there is so much Christmas music out there, and every band feels like they have got to put out a Christmas album. Heartfelt Family Christmas released last fall. Was that a fun project, and did it feel intimidating because there's so much Christmas music there?
It was extremely intimidating. And me personally, that album stressed me out to my core. It stressed me out. Christmas music is so hard to sing because it's like the classics. You don't want to mess it up.
That's right.
And so it's like, It was very intimidating, but we were super blessed to have all of the artists that we did to feature on the album. And it turned out to be more amazing than we could have ever hoped for.
Devin, tell me, what's the song that you're doing the video for today?
Oh,
you can't say that?
We can't. Okay. We can't say anything yet.
All right. Well, we're going to follow up. We're going to follow up. We can't wait to hear about it. New Orleans Jazz Fest coming up. That's huge. So proud of your success, continued success, and can't wait to talk to you again soon.
All right. We'll talk to y'all.
Chapel Hart, Devynn, Trea, Danica. Trea and Danica working on the makeup, getting ready for the music video shoot. We're going to find out later what that music video is. We'll wrap up Mornings with you now.
From the Venable Glass.
Know where the news is going next. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Maria, there was some blue and sorrow time. Just my thoughts about you.
I don't think you could help but be just overjoyed for Chapel Hart and their success. Originally from Poplarville, Mississippi, just rocket ship to fame on America's Got Talent, now playing Jazz Fest, recording videos, popular all over the world. Just a really, really cool story.
And they're really cool people, too. I mean, just super nice.
Could Devin have been any more fun to talk about?
We could have gone on for 2 hours with that.
And how about the raw honesty with, I was so nervous doing a Christmas album.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about what you're stacking yourself up against when you're like, hey, we're important enough that we're going to put out a Christmas album. Sinatra did it. Michael Bublé did it. Burl Ives did it. And so did everybody else. But we're putting ourselves into that realm, and they just crushed it.
Well, and Michael Handel, Northwest Community College, just heard the great interview with Chapel Hart and wanted to let you know and the listeners that they will be on campus for our big fundraiser event on Saturday, March the 29th, 8:30 p.m. Tickets at HeindelCenter.org.
Mark your calendar. You want to check that out.
Yeah.
Thanks, Doc. Appreciate you checking in. Absolutely. From one music group that we absolutely love and adore to another music group that is in the headlines for a bit different reason. Have you seen this? Have you heard this?
Closing time. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay.
That is from a video.
I
that was put out by the White House. Yes, that is the 1990s hit song by Minneapolis rock band Semisonic. Yeah. Played at every bar in the world for the last 2 decades. You spent a little time behind the bar. Is there has there ever been a night when around the closing time, wait, who hit the button? There's Semisonic. Yeah, it's happened, right?
Of course.
You ain't got to go home, but you can't stay here.
Got to get out of here.
And so, of course, Caroline Leavitt was asked by a reporter about the White House's media strategy as they are posting illegals being deported to the song "Closing Time." She said a lot, but this was the summation.
Specific video you referenced, I think it sums up our immigration policy pretty well. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Caroline Leavitt, mic drop, White House press briefing room. Now, as is usually the case, the musicians had something to say. Semisonic, they are big mad. Big mad. We did not authorize or condone the White House's use of our song in any way, and no, they didn't ask. The song is about joy and possibilities and hope, and they have missed the point entirely. That's according to the power pop trio from the Twin Cities in a statement to the Associated Press. They missed the point, Lance.
Yeah, well,
it's not what it was about. It's about hope and possibility.
Yeah, well, really, okay.
Is it?
Yeah, I don't know if that's what I would have taken from the lyrics, but
yeah. What did you take from the lyrics the first time you heard "Closing Time"?
That's not it. Hope and possibilities. And you're going, oh my God, the bar's open. Well, the late night is coming. Yeah, the late night. Yeah.
In fairness, for a lot of people that are hearing "Closing Time" at the bar, maybe hope and possibility is what is in their mind,
or the opposite. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
It could be the absolute other side of that coin is possible as well.
Mo says as long as the White House pays the royalties, they don't have any say in the matter.
I can imagine, that's
kind of how it works.
Yeah, pay the royalties and let them say whatever they want, and they can.
The list of music artists that have said, we didn't tell Trump he could use our music, is long and distinguished.
And they're probably getting a nice boost in the mailbox money from playing that.
They are.
So there'll be people all over the world playing that now going, what was that song? And
Closing Time. Okay.
Closing Time. Let's play that from Semi, not Super, Sonic.
Yeah. Man, we got a great rest of the week coming for you. We're working on a couple of additional guests tomorrow, including Senator Josh Harkins, who hopefully it works with his schedule to come on in the morning. House Speaker Jason White, hopefully it works with his schedule to come on in the morning. I'm going to be in studio with you there in Jackson tomorrow. Hopefully, again, this is all, I'm just throwing it out there. Scott Waller from MEC is going to join us. The PBM conversation rages on.
Oh, yeah.
And Scott Waller and the Mississippi Economic Council are perhaps coming at that from a little bit different angle. They're looking at it from the business owner's side, the business community side of things, and the effect that PBM legislation might have on the business community. Hopefully we'll get Scott on Wednesday as well. Thursday, the one and only Lars Larson will be on board. Always enjoy the chats with Lars. He gets up early in the Pacific Northwest to visit with us from time to time.
Great day right there, man.
Friends, we have run out of time. But 21 hours from right now, we will re-rack it and start all over again. Until then, I and Lance hope you have a spectacular Tuesday, mid-70s and a whole lot of sunshine all across the state of Mississippi. Don't forget, Sports Talk Mississippi live from Trustmark Park. Ole Miss, Southern Miss coverage presented by C Spire this afternoon starting at 3. Have a great day.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Mid-Delta Auction Company is holding a spring equipment auction Thursday, March the 20th from their location across from Cannon Motors in Greenwood. Visit mdauction.com for more information. That's mdauction.com. We'll see you there.